Today we're gonna reading this book together. It's named The Tale of Little Pig Robinson. Ooh, Little Pig Robinson. Okay, put on my sock now. Too hot. For me. Whitney. Oof. Put it on one side and then voila. Now let's go. Okay, this is too heavy. Let's go and reading of this book. With me. Okay. This Little Pig Robinson is really thick. So I think we need to turn it into 3 or 4. I think it's gonna be just 3. Okay, let me change it back. Part 2 is quite short. Good. So this is gonna turn to 3 parts. So let's start out with a part 1. Ignore the stupid barking dog, please. Chapter 1. When I was a child, I used to go to the seaside for holidays. We stayed in the little town where there was a harbor and fishing boats and fishermen. We sailed away to catch herrings in net. When the boats came back home again, some had only caught a few herrings. What a herring? What's a herring? Others had caught so many that they cannot all be unloaded on the quay. Then horses and carts were driven into the shallow what? Shallow water at low tide to meet the heavily laden boats. The fish were shoveled over the side of the boat into the carts and taken to the railway station, where a special train of fish trucks was waiting. Great was the excitement when the fishing boat returned with a good catch of herrings. Half of the people in the town ran down to the quay, including cats. Again, animal world? Anyway, cats do cute. There were a white cat called Susan, who never missed meeting the boats. She belonged to the wife of an old fisherman named Sam. The wife's name was Bestie. She had rheumatics, and she had no family except Susan and 5 hens. Bestie sat by the fire. Her back ached. She said, "Ow! Ow!" whenever she had to put a coal on and stir a pot. Susan sat opposite to Bestie. She felt sorry for Bestie. She wished she knew how to put the coal on and stir the pot. Susan doesn't know how to put the coal on and stir the pot. I know how to stir, but I do not really know stir the pot mean. Is stirring a pot or stirring batter in the pot or something? I don't know. Or stirring coal in the pot. All day long we sat by the fire while Sam was always fishing. They had a cup of tea and some milk. "Susan," said Bestie, "I can hardly stand up. Go to the front gate and look for a master boat." Susan went out and came back 3 or 4 times. She went out into the garden. At last, late in the afternoon, she saw the sails of a fishing fleet coming in over the sea. "Go down to the harbor," asked Master of 6 Earrings. "I will cook them for supper. Take my basket, Susan." Susan took the basket, also borrowed Bestie's bonnet and little play shawl. I saw her hurrying down to the harbor. Other cats were coming out of a cottage and running down to the steep streets that lead to the seafront. Also ducks. I remember that there were most peculiar ducks with top knots that looked like tam o' shanter caps. Everybody was hurrying to meet the boats. Nearly everybody. I only met one person, a dog called Stumpy, who was going the opposite way. He was carrying a paper parcel in his mouth. Some dogs do not care for fish. Stumpy had been to the butcher's to buy mutton chops for himself and Bob and Percy and Miss Rose. Stumpy was a large, serious, well-behaved brown dog with a short tail. He lived with Bob and the retriever, and Percy the cat, and Miss Rose who kept house. Stumpy had belonged to a very rich old gentleman. When the old gentleman died, he left money to Stumpy, 10 shillings a week, for the rest of Stumpy's life. So that was why Stumpy and Bob and Percy the cat all lived together in a pretty little house. Susan, with her basket, met Stumpy at the corner of a Bourse Street. Susan made a curtsy. She would have stopped to inquire after Percy. She was in a hurry to meet the boat. Percy was lame. He had hurt his foot. It has been trapped under the wheel of a milk cart. Stumpy looked at Sam out of the corner of his eye. He wagged his tail, but he did not stop. He could not bow or say good afternoon or fear of dropping a parcel of mutton chops. He turned out of Broad Street. Broad Street to Woodbine Lane, where he lived. He pushed open the front door and disappeared into a house. Presently, there was a smell of cooking, and I have no doubt that Stumpy and Bob and Miss Rose and George were mutton chops. Percy could not be found at dinner time. He had slipped out of a window, and like all the other cats in town, he had gone to meet the fishing boats. Susan hurried along Broad Street and took a shortcut to the harbor. Down a steep flight of steps. The ducks had wisely gone another way, round by the seafront. The steps were too steep and slippery for anyone less sure-footed than a cat. Susan went down quickly and easily. There were 43 steps. Rather stark and slimy, between high backs of houses. A smell of ropes and pitch and good deal of noise came up from below. At the bottom of the steeps was the quay, or landing place. beside the inner harbor. The tide was out. There was no water. The vessels rest on a dirty mud. Several ships were moored beside the quay. Others were anchored inside the breakwater. Near the steps, coal was being unloaded from greeny colliers called the Marjorie Dway. Oe? Or something? I don't know. Of Sunderland and the Jenny Domes of Cardiff. Men ran along planks with a wheelbarrow full of coal. Coal scoops were swung ashore by cranes and emptied with loud thumping and rattling. Farther along the quay, another ship called the Pound of Candles was taking a mixed cargo on board. Bales, casks, packing case, barrels, all manner of goods were being stowed into the hold. Sailors and stevedores shout. Chains rattled and clanked. Susan waited for an opportunity to slip past the noisy crowd. She watched a cask of cider that bobbed and swung in the air on its passage from the quay to the deck of a Pound of Candles. A yellow cat who sat in the rigging on was also watching the cask. The rope ran through the pulley. The cask went down bobbily to the deck, where a sailorman was waiting for it. Said the sailor down below, "Look out! Mind your head, young sir! Stand out of the way!" "Wee, wee, wee!" grunted a small pig, scampering down the deck of a Pound of Candles. The yellow cat in the rigging watched the small pink pig. The yellow cat in rigging looked across at Susan on the quay. The yellow cat winked. Susan was surprised to see a pig on board a ship, but she was in a hurry. She threaded her way along the quay, amongst coal and cranes and men, wheeling hand trucks, and noises and smells. She passes the fish auction and fish boxes and fish sorter and barrels that women were filling with herrings and salt. Seagulls swoop and scream. Hundreds of fish bones and tons of fresh fish were being loaded into the hold of a small steamer. Susan was glad to get away from the crowd. "Why is my sister so annoying?" "Anyway, please ignore my sis." King of the annoyings. Down a much shorter flight of steps onto the shore of the outer harbor. The ducks arrived soon afterwards, waddling and quacking. And old Sam's boat, the Bessie Timmins, just that, last of a hurrying fleet and heavy laden, coming round of a big water, and drove her blunt nose into the shingle. Shingle? What is that? Sam was in high spirit. She had had a big catch. He and his mate and two lads commenced to unload their fish into carts. As the tide was too low to float the fishing boat up to the quay, the boat had full of herrings. But good luck or bad luck, Sam never failed to throw a handful of herrings to Susan. Here's for the 2 old girls and a hot supper. Catch them, Susan. Ho- Honest now. Here's a broken fish for you. Now take the others to Basti. With me. Why did my sis always call me Grandma? She loved my grandma so much. She keep annoying my videos. The ducks were dabbling and gobbling. The seagulls were screaming and swooping. Susan climbed the steps with her basket of herrings and went home by back streets. Old Bestie cooked 2 herrings for herself and Susan, other 2 for Sam's supper when he came in. Then she went to bed with a hot bottle wrapped in a flannel petticoat. Ugh! She's so annoying. Wait me for a sec. I need to fix this. I need to tell my mom to let her not to crying so my video will not annoying. And I hate annoyings. Just wait me for a few secs. Thanks. I know it's annoying and boring for you, but just need to wait me. Nearly done, guys. Good, done. Let's continue it. And now I only need to wait my mom and dad until they see my message on Zalo. Now where are we? Flannel petticoat to help her rheumatics. Sam ate his supper and smoked a pipe by the fire. And then when he went to bed, but Susan sat along a time by the fire, considered many things, fish and ducks, and Percy with a lame foot, and dogs that eat mutton chops, and the yellow cat on the ship, and the pig. Susan thought it's strange to see a pig upon a ship called Pound of Candles. The mice peeped out under the cupboard door. The ciders fell togetherly on the hearth. Susan poured gently on her sleep and dreamed of fish and pigs. She could not understand that pig on board a ship, but I know all about him. Chapter 2. You remember the song about the owl and the pussycat and the beautiful green pea-green boat? I didn't know that. Harvey took the money and plenty of money wrapped in a 5-pound note. They sailed away for a year a day to the land where the palm tree grows, and there in the wood a piggy stood, with a ring at the end of his nose, with a ring at the end of his nose. Weirdos. Now I'm going to tell you the story of that pig and why he went to live in a land of a palm tree. Palm tree? What is a palm tree? When the pig was little, he lived in Devonshire with his aunt, Miss Dorcas and Miss Porcas, at a farm called Piggery Porcombe. Their cosy, thatched cottage was in an orchard at the top of a steep red Devonshire lane. The soil was red, the grass was green, and far away below in the distance they could see red cliff and a bit of bright blue sea. Ships in white sails sailed over. What is this? Doesn't got any commas. I felt quite tired now because of my annoying sister. Wait me. Good. Harbour's Steinmouth. I have often remarked that Devonshire farms that are very strange names. If you ever have seen Piggery Porcombe, you would think that people who lived there were very queer too. Aunt Dorcas was a stout, speckled pig who kept hens. Aunt Porcas was a large, smiling black pig who took in washing. We shall not hear very much about them in this story. They led prosperous, uneventful lives, and the end was bacon. But their nephew, Robinson, was the most peculiar adventures that ever happened to a pig. Little pig Robinson was a charming little fellow, pinky white with his small blue eyes, fat cheeks and a double chin, and a turn-up nose with a real silver ring in it. Robinson could see that ring if he shut one eye and squinted sideways. He was always contented and happy. All day long he ran about his farm, singing little songs to himself and grunting, wee, wee, wee. His aunts missed those little songs sadly after Robinson had left them. Wee, 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 he answered when anybody spoke to him. Wee, 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 listening on his head on one side and one eye screwed up. Wait me a sec. Oh, nothing. Robinson's old aunt fed him and petted him and kept him on the trot. Robinson! Robinson! called Aunt Dorcas. Come quick! I hear a hen clucking. Fetch me the egg. Don't break it now. Wee, 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 answered Robinson like a little Frenchman. Robinson! Robinson! I dropped a clothes peg. Come pick it up for me, called Aunt Dorcas from the drying. I'm itchy. And that itchy annoying too. Drying green, she being almost too fat to stoop down and pick up anything. Wee, 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 answered Robinson. Both the elms were very, very stout, and the stiles in the neighborhood of Stymouth are narrow. The footpath from Pickery Combe crosses many fields, a red trodden track between short green grass and daisies. And whenever the footpath crosses over from one field to another field, there's sure to be a stile in the hedge. It is not me that is too stout. It is the stile. Is. I don't know how to read it. That are too thin, said Aunt Dorcas to Aunt Porcus. Could you manage to squeeze through them if I stayed at home? I cannot. Not for 2 years. I could not, replied Aunt Porcus, aggravating. It is aggravating of that carrier man to go and upset his donkey cart of a day before market day, and eggs at 2 tuppence a dozen. How far do you call it to walk all the way round the road instead of crossing the fields? 4 miles if it is one, signed out Porcus, and me using my last bit of soap. However will we get our shopping done? The donkey says the cart will take a week to mend. Don't you think it would squeeze through the stiles if you went before dinner? No, I don't. I would stick fast, and so would you, said Aunt Porcus. Don't you think we might venture? Comments Aunt Dorcas. Venture to send Robinson by the footpath to Stymouth? Finished Aunt Porcus. Wee, 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 answered Robinson. I scarcely like to send him alone, for he is sensible for his size. Wee, 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 answered Robinson. There is nothing else to be done, said Aunt Dorcas. So Robinson was popped into a wash tub with a last bit of soap. He was scrubbed and dried and polished, and as bright as a new pin. He was dressed in a little blue cotton frock. Cotton frock. And knickers, and instructed to go shopping to Stymouth with a big market basket. In the basket was 2 dozen eggs, a bunch of daffodils, 2 spring cauliflowers, also Robinson's dinner of bread and jam sandwiches. The egg and flour and vegetable he must sell in the market, and bring back wages over purchase from shopping. Now take care of yourself in Stymouth, you feel Robinson. Beware of gunpowder and ship's cooks and patches, nickons, and sausages and shoes, and ships and sealing wax. Remember the blue bag, the soap, the darning wool. That was the other thing, said Aunt Dorcas. The darning wool, the soap, the blue bag, the yeast. What was the other thing? Said Aunt Porcus. Wee, 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 answered Robinson. The blue bag, the soap, the yeast, the darning wool, the cabbage seed. That's 5, and there ought to be 6. There was 2 more than 4 because there was too many to tie knots in the corners of his hanky. To remember to buy, 6 to buy, it would be. I have it, said Aunt Porcus. It was tea, blue bag, soap, darning wool, yeast, cabbage seed. You will buy most of them at Mr. Mumby's, explained to the carrier Robinson. Then we'll bring the washing and some more vegetables next week. Wee, answered Robinson, setting up a big basket. Wait me. Oh, okay. Wee, answered Robinson, setting up with a big basket. Aunt Dorcas and Aunt Porky stood in the porch. They watched him safely out of sight, down the field and through the first of the many stiles. When they went back to their household tasks, they were grunty and snappy with each other because they were uneasy about Robinson. I wish we had not let him go, and your tiresome blue bag, and said Aunt Dorcas. Blue bag, indeed. It was your darning wool and eggs, grumbled Aunt Porcas. Bother what carrier man in his donkey cart. Why could he not keep out of a ditch until after market day? Chapter 3. Nearly done there, guys. The walk to Steinmouth was a long one, in spite of going by the fields. But the footpath ran downhill at the way, and Robinson was merry. He sang his little song for joy of a fine morning, and he chuckled. Wee. The larks were singing, too, high overhead, but higher still, high up against blue sky, a great white goose sailed in wide circles. Her hoarse cries came softened back to earth from a great way up above. Important rooks and lively jackdaws strutted about the meadows amongst the daisies and buttercups. Lambs skip and bad. The sheep looks round at Robinson. Mind yourself in Steinmouth, little pig, said Misery Ely. Robinson trotted on until he was out of breath and very hot. He had crossed 5 big fields and ever so many stiles with steps, ladder stiles of wooded posts. Some of them were very awkward with a heavy basket. The farm of Piggery Pourcambé was no longer in sight when he looked back. In the distance before him, beyond the farm, lanes and cliffs, never like any nearer, the dark blue sea rose like a wall. Robinson sat down to rest beside an edge in the sheltered sunny spot. Yellow pussy willow catkins were in flower above his head. There were primroses in hundreds on the bank, and a warm smell of moss and grass and steaming moist red earth. If I eat my dinner now, I will not have to carry it. Wee, said Robinson. The walk had made him so hungry he would have to eat an egg as well as the jam sandwiches, but he had been too well brought up. I'll spoil the 2 dozen, said Robinson. He picked up a bunch of primrose and tied them up with bits of darning wool that Aunt Dorcas was giving him for the pattern. I sell them in my market for my very own self, and buy sweeties with my pennies. How many pennies have I got? Said Robinson, feeling in his pocket. One from Aunt Dorcas, and one from Aunt Porcus, and one for my primrose, and for my very own self. Oh, wee, wee, wee! There's somebody trotting along the road. How shall be late for market? Robinson jumped up and pushed his basket through a very narrow stile, where the footpath crossed into the public road. He saw a man on horseback, but Mr. Pepperell came up, riding a chestnut horse with white legs. His two-tailed greyhounds ran before him. They looked through the bars of the gates. Wait me, I need to check. Oh, goody. I think it's gonna be quite long. I pushed his basket through a very narrow stile where footpath crossed the public road. No. Bars in the gate into very field that they passed. They came bounding up to Robinson, very large and friendly. They licked his face and asked what he got in that basket. Mr. Pepperell called them. Here, pirate, here, postboy. Come here, sir. He did not wish to be asked where for the eggs. The road was been recently covered with sharp new flints. Mr. Pepperell walked the chestnut horse on the grass edge and talked to Robinson. He was a jolly old gentleman, very affable, with a red face and white whiskers. All the green fields and red ploughlands between Steinmouth and Piggery Combe belonged to him. Hula, hula! And where are you off to, little pig Robinson? Please, Mr. Pepperell, sir, I'm going to market. Wee, 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 said Robinson. What? All by yourself? Where are Miss Dorcas and Miss Porcus? Not ill, I trust. Okay, end of part 1. Must be 40 minutes, I think. Just nearly. I hope you guys can watch this in 2 parts. And goodbye, guys. Oh, I'm tired now. Bye-bye.